All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This segment is called Michael's Magic Moment. It's my opportunity to play a little snippet from one of our previous episodes, which resonated with our listeners, that I received feedback from, or I felt really had an impact on some people's lives. Hope you enjoy it. Today we're going back to an episode that I did with a very special guest, and me and Monica talk about whether a relationship is healthy or not in certain situations. And she discusses some certain scenarios where somebody might find themselves in a situation in their relationship, and she clarifies whether it's something they should be concerned about or not. She discusses some red flags that couples should not ignore and some skills and tactics that they can use to help them manage that conflict in that situation. Sometimes it could be a situation that there could be some traits of a partner that somebody thinks is normal or healthy, and there are sometimes some that are not very healthy, and it's important to be aware of them. And I thought it was very important to go back to this episode just to talk about these issues and things that couples should be aware of in a relationship, because there's more to it than just the money. There's always other things, and things that, as I said, could be healthy and things that may not be as healthy to watch out for. What are some of the flags to watch out for if somebody finds themselves in this situation or doesn't realize that they're in this situation?
That's such a good question, Michael, because in some of our cultures, abuse is so normalized that we don't even realize that we are in an abusive relationship. And this is primarily so far as the emotional abuse is concerned. And being aware of these red flags, being aware of those warning signs are critical to ensure that you know whether you are in such a relationship, or if you've already ended a relationship, then you are at least aware for your future relationships that you are looking out for these signs quite early on in your relationship. And I'll touch upon a few of them, as you mentioned. One of them is gaslighting. This was a word that was most looked for on Google last year, and it was considered as the word of the year in the British dictionary. I think it was looked up 1,700 times or something like that. So this is a psychological abuse where a partner controls the other partner. It's a manipulative technique where they distort an incident to assure their partner that they are wrong, and that their memories, their thoughts, their senses cannot be trusted. And when these tactics are used over a period of time, then the person who's getting manipulated begins to doubt themselves and also their experiences. And they begin to feel that they are really crazy. And as such, they lose their self-worth. In such scenarios, the person who is manipulating also ensures that the person who's getting manipulated is completely isolated from their loved ones, from their family and friends. And therefore, the only voice that the person who's getting manipulated is the voice of the manipulator, and also apart from their own voice speaking into their life. And therefore, it is really necessary to be surrounded by family and friends who love you and who care for you, so that you can hear someone else's perspective as well. So it is also important to find a partner who validates you, who's compassionate, rather than who criticizes or confuses you. And if there is a partner who's criticizing you and confusing you, mind you, confusion is not a hallmark of a healthy relationship. So this is a red flag. And if it appears quite early on in your relationships, then to be mindful, because it can turn into gaslighting later on as the relationship develops. So that's one of the abuses. The other abuse could be something like mirroring. Now, what is mirroring is where the person who's manipulating you or has that intention, they will tend to emulate you. They will tend to support you in all your likes and dislikes. And when I say support you, they will like everything that you like. If you like butterscotch as an ice cream, they like it too. If you're into personal development, they are into personal development. If you like Brené Brown, they like Brené Brown. Everything is whatever you like, they like. It is quite flattering, no doubt about it, that your likes are similar to that of your partner's. However, this mirroring becomes dark mirroring when it turns sinister. So what they do is that they, over a time period, they learn about your desires, your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, your insecurities, and then use these against you when the time comes. A person who is in a toxic relationship and who is experiencing dark mirroring, it's very hard for them to get out of such relationships, because they want their partners to like them, primarily because there are certain parts in each of us which we don't like about ourselves. So these people tend to be on a treadmill, or you could say they are on that hamster wheel trying to please the other partner, to like those parts of themselves that they don't like about themselves, so that they are accepted just as they are, and they continue to being in such toxic relationships. Whereas the idea is to ensure that your partner provides you a safe harbor, provides you a launching pad, so that you can go out in the world, do absolutely excel in any field that you are in, and then you come back to your launching pad, come back to your relationship where you are soothed and supported once again. The other type of abuse that I can mention here, you mentioned about financial abuse. Yes, it's very common. However, it's a very lesser known tactic that is used by the manipulative partners, where they might force the other partner to leave their job. All right, and this could be in the name of, say, in on the pretext that the children are getting neglected, or they might criticize you for the choice of job that you have opted for. They might even turn up at your workplace and be critical of you. They may use your credit card and then refuse to pay it. They will force you to keep a record of every single purchase that you've made, and all the financial decisions that you've made in the house. They will siphon off all the money from the joint account into a private account. So these are various tactics that are used. Whereas a loving partner would be one who would be supportive of the financial independence of their partner. Whereas we don't realize, and especially people who are from other cultures, because in our cultures, generally it's the men who always have control, whether it's our fathers or brothers or our husbands, who have control of all the finances. So we don't want to rock the boat. By we, I mean the women don't want to rock the boat, and therefore they give all the authority, because that's what they've seen in their families. They give all the authority and financial decisions to be made by the husband, which, if the husband or the wife, it could be either, because I'm just assuming that way. It could be any of the partners who could be financially abusing you. And I am by no means stating that it's only the men who are abusive. Women can equally be abusive. So in an abusive relationship, any partner can be using financial abuse as a tactic in order to manipulate the other partner. So these are some of them. I hope I have been able to answer your question.
Yeah, no, you have, and also, like, I mean, yeah, gaslighting. To be honest, I didn't know what gaslighting was. I've heard it many times, so it's interesting that it was one of the most, a very highly Googled term last year. And the other part about it as well is, a lot of the things you've mentioned, you're actually very right. Like it's, like again, I'm coming at it from a financial advisor's point of view, but money can play into these things because it could be used as a tool sometimes to control people. And at the same time, and I know it's very hard because every relationship is completely different, but some of the things you've mentioned, or even all three, especially the one of mirroring the other person's likes, how do you distinguish it from being something just that's natural and something like how do you distinguish between good and bad intentions, if you know what I mean? Because in a relationship, especially when you meet someone the first time, it's very natural to want to do the same things as that person. For example, if somebody doesn't like sushi, but the girl or the guy they're trying to impress like sushi, they'll probably start having sushi with them, So how do you sort of distinguish between good and bad intentions? Or is it impossible to do that? And it's just something that over time, we need to just follow our gut instinct and assess.
You're absolutely right. As I mentioned, that it is quite flattering that, and with your example as well, if your partner likes sushi, obviously over a time period, you begin to like sushi. However, as time goes on, um, we have to be mindful of whether our likes are being used against us. Um, in my book, How Do You Know He's the One? I've explained all these with a lot of scenarios, with a lot of examples on how it is how it's not easy. However, you can make out that this mirroring has now turned into dark mirroring. Like one of the examples that I give in the book, I don't know if I'm getting it right. I don't have the book in front of me, but I'll try. So far as I remember, that supposing initially the partner may be very welcoming of you to uh, to take up a job, supposing, and they really like you to do the things that you do in the job, and then they're very appreciative of it, and then a time comes, supposing, where you say that you are getting a leadership position. um, and leadership position means that perhaps you might end up earning more than your partner. So there is a factor of jealousy, supposing, that comes in. Now, they will start to use this against you because they're aware of your insecurities. And they will say things like, they will really exploit on your vulnerabilities. Do you think you have the time? You already are so preoccupied. It takes you such a long time. Do you think you'll be able to manage this? Sometimes it comes from a good heart, but sometimes you'd have to trust, as you mentioned, you'd have to trust your gut. You'd have to trust your instinct of whether it is being used against you or not. A healthy relationship would be where they are very supportive of you, of the decisions that you are planning to make. Yes, you do warn them that these could be, this could go against us, or there might be some repercussions or consequences of taking it up. It might affect your health or something, but they will try and exploit your desires, your insecurities against you through some comments, or through being sarcastic, through being passive aggressive. So you'll have to be mindful of what is coming your way.
Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.